Hi, I'm Josh, she's Sarah, and this is Witch Hunt Podcast.
Welcome back to our Podcasthon 2025 series, Ending Witch Hunts. Our nonprofit End Witch Hunts is a Podcasthon participating charity, and Podcasthon is a global movement that involves thousands of podcasts amplifying the work of charities and causes March 15th through the 21st.
In this episode, we're going to continue telling the witch hunt story by covering the concerning reality of witch hunts across Asia.
In this story layer, we'll explore how witch hunts and witch branding remain significant problems in parts of Asia, particularly in India.
Laws against witchcraft practices exist in many Southwest and Central Asian nations. Elsewhere, as in India, witchcraft is not a crime against the state, but is viewed as something akin to a crime by many who take justice into their own hands.
But in Asia, the witch hunts in India are most widely known. And I would like to thank the many experts that have contributed to our podcast already about the witch branding in this South Asian nation.
Yes, several of the experts who've been guests of our podcast contribute to legal perspectives across Indian states, work on the ground with victim recovery programs, and use field research to raise awareness about current issues.
Look, it's an awesome word cloud featuring all their names.
Don't you want to hear what they all have to say?
That's possible because we have an India episode playlist that you need to listen to so that you can hear about this country and the incredible advocacy directly from India.
This collection we have informs from different backgrounds and different perspectives.
India is a nation of more than 1.4 billion people who occupy a land area of more than 1.2 million square miles. 4 times the population of the U.S. is living in an area roughly a third the size of the U.S.
In different Indian states and cultures, there is a diversity of patriarchal and matriarchal structures. In some societies, land is inherited through the matrilineal line. In these structures, variously, women have different amounts of authority. Of course, they have more in the matriarchal and matrilineal societies than they do in the patriarchy. And so we will be coming back to this subject of patriarchy later in the show.
And if you want to know more about the matriarchal societies, you can tune into that India playlist.
In addition to the social strata that we see in societies such as American society, where there are different income classes, different earnings for different people, and a lot of what we think about is in terms of upper class, middle class, and lower class. In India, there's also another layer called the caste system that people are born into. This caste system is a hierarchical structure where people in the upper caste have more privileges, more expectations, generally more wealth than the people in the lower caste because what job opportunities have been historically available based upon caste is generally ordered by higher income jobs go to the higher castes. They're the ones getting the professional degrees, historically speaking. And the lower caste is known as the Dalits. They're the people who have been historically marginalized and oppressed. And they were formerly known as untouchables. Now they're known as the scheduled castes officially, but Dalit informally. And there are more than 200 million Dalits in India. Expert guests of Witch Hunt Podcast, Preethi Lalaksha Nagavini, has done an episode with us called Witchcraft Accusations and Caste in India. You listen to that to learn more about the caste system and how members of the lower caste continue to be vulnerable to witchcraft accusations and other human rights violations.
So, Josh, how do witchcraft accusations look in India?
Well, witch branding, which, by the way, doesn't mean branding like we would with cattle. It's not putting a mark on somebody. Witch branding refers to labeling someone as a witch and then harming them in some way. And we'll talk some more about that. But witch branding, like all forms of witch hunting, results in heavy punishment being enforced by individuals or groups. And this is occurring outside of the court system. These are private citizens taking matters into their own hands.
These social punishments are experienced by innocent women, not witches, and they include social ostracization, exclusion from economics of a community, banishment, public humiliation, assault, torturous violence, rape, and murder.
So the total number of people victimized by witch branding is unknown. Over the period from 2010 to 2021, the National Crime Bureau in India recorded about 1,500 cases of individuals falling victim to violence, including burning and lynching following allegations of witchcraft.
This figure does only include murders. There's still a prevalence of crimes perpetrated against those accused of witchcraft that don't escalate to murder, but are still violent and destroy their lives. Reports of these murders do reach international news outlets.
Individuals who brand others as witches have a variety of motivations for their actions. These motivations, you have heard many of these in our previous episodes. They include the fear of witchcraft, patriarchal control, property disputes, and scapegoating for misfortune and unexplained death.
And regardless of the primary outward reasons for the switch branding, the underlying motif is gender based violence.
As patriarchal control plays out, it's reducing the authority and agency of women, which leads to men feeling empowered to commit gender based violence.
We've heard over and over from our advocates that entire communities do turn on women who have been branded as witches. And this is what leads to collective social and economic exclusion, and in these extreme cases, mob violence resulting in murder.
However, as dire as all of this sounds and as dire as the situation is in reality, we have heard from experts and advocates who are developing and implementing holistic strategies to eliminate witch branding.
There's many programs and authoritative reports that are bringing visibility to the experiences of marginalized people in India and connecting them with support.
Reiterating what we told you about in the first episode of our Ending Witch Hunts series a few days ago, holistic solutions involve several key steps. One of those steps involves education and awareness.
This same model that we've been speaking of is also applicable to the communities in Asia.
All of these holistic solutions require everybody to help out and pitch in. So we've talked to many experts, men and women, who are involved in this advocacy. Women are the primary victims of witch branding, but men are often the accusers, and often for very misogynistic reasons, even if that's not the overriding outward facing motivation somebody has. Underneath it all is that layer of fear or mistrust of women. So it's very important for that reason that men get involved in advocating and work hand in hand with women to pursue effective solutions to the problem.
And when you look at the global network of advocates, you do see both men and women experts working. It's such a great example showing that kind of gendered collaboration across the network working to end witch hunts.
Another step in the holistic approach to solving the witch branding crisis is to strengthen laws and the enforcement of laws already on the books. There's need for strong central legislation because currently it's up to the states to decide if they're going to specifically ban witch branding practices. Now, of course, a lot of the harms that are done are already illegal, such as the murder and violence, but the branding itself is not illegal. And there need to be specific laws to give some more weight in order to curb the violence. There just needs to be more weight. There needs to be a will among the police and the judicial system to bring justice to those who have done wrong, to the always innocent women and sometimes men who are accused of witchcraft. Hand in hand with that is this need to support the victims. You want law enforcement to be there, hopefully, have a presence to prevent people from being victimized. But once someone has survived a witch branding, they need a variety of supports, psychological counseling, therapies, practical supports. Often they're driven out of their communities and need resources, need to be able to get jobs. They need education. They need clothing, housing, food support. So all of these supports are being considered in the holistic solutions that are being proposed right now.
And the arts are used for community engagement in India to reach survivors.
The theater of the oppressed is the survivors coming together to put on performances of situations that they themselves have been in, to act out the scenarios so people can learn what is actually happening. Another aspect of a holistic solution is to involve international collaboration. It's very important for people working in advocacy against witch hunts in one nation to connect with advocates working against witch hunts in other nations to learn from each other. And one way that that is being done is through the International Alliance to End Witch Hunts, which has advocates in many countries, including several in India. They have regular meetings and seminars and discussions of what's going on in different countries, Ghana, Tanzania, many countries all around the world are involved in this. And the collaboration, the collective efforts that come out of joining in together and working cooperatively, it just elevates the solutions that come out are enhanced and so much better. And also within India, because it's such a very large country, state to state interaction is very critical. And one of the things that's been great to see through Witch Hunt podcast is actually advocates have come together who've heard each other on different episodes of the show, and they've decided we've got to connect, we've got to work together. This research you're doing is interesting. This approach you have to the holistic solution is innovative. Let's work hand in hand. And it's just very nice to see all of this collaboration, like we've said several times. For the problem to be solved, it takes all of us coming together.
One specific project that is rolling out is called BOLD, Building Opportunities for Lives and Dignities. And this is a project to end witch hunting. This is a project that is looking for academic collaborations and funding. So please reach out if that is something that interests you. This is a survivor direct program to enrich and enhance their lives so that they can go on and live the lives that they want to live in the community that they belong in.
And the Bolt project will focus on several key areas. One is raising awareness and changing attitudes, also supporting survivors, strengthening legal and institutional frameworks, data driven interventions, and community empowerment and sustainability. As we talked about, this is the holistic way of going about addressing the issue because any one of these solutions on its own is not going to do it. You can put whatever law you want in the books. Humans are going to be humans, and witch hunts are still going to happen unless you do change attitudes. And of course, as Sarah said, supporting the survivors is just so critical for their well-being and for restoring harmony to communities that have been ripped apart by these allegations.
Thank you for tuning in to this series this week, Ending Witch Hunts. And if you've been listening, we have thrown a lot at you in a short amount of time. It is a lot to hear about. It's a lot to process. But ending witch hunts is something everyone needs to be familiar with because it's all of our responsibility to end them.
Yes, we all need to come together. We all need to understand what the situation is and get involved in whatever way we can to our own capacity through utilizing our own skills, abilities, and resources, everything we've got. It's our duty to end injustice anywhere that we see it. And witch hunting is a grave injustice.
And you probably have something to offer in advocacy you may not realize. You can simply share one of the episodes or the information. You could post about it, blog about it, integrate it into your own writing or presentations. You can learn more at endwitchhunts.org, learning about what is being done to end witch hunts is advocating because you're probably going to talk about what you're learning.
Talking about what's going on just in your own circle of friends and acquaintances, engaging in conversations, getting discussions started is so important because we know when we first started talking about this, especially Sarah and I and the rest of In Witch Hunts started talking about this, people just looked at us baffled. What is this you're talking about? So it's important to break the ice and get the subject out there so people are aware that it's going on. And it's also important to learn more about the organizations working on the ground. You can look in our show notes for links for the International Alliance and other organizations. And if you have the ability, do consider a financial contribution to one of these organizations, either to end witch hunts. You can contact the International Alliance through their website and find out from them how to contribute or volunteer. Volunteering time is very helpful to do any of the many, many tasks that we've talked about that go into all of this solution.
We would also appreciate donations to support the production of our podcast. Josh, we have covered a lot of countries the last few days while telling the story of witch hunts.
Yeah, we really have. And the great news is we still have three more fabulous episodes coming to you this week for Podcasthon so we can complete the story of witch hunts. And tomorrow we're airing our regularly scheduled weekly episode as we do every Wednesday. Witch Hunt Podcast episode is going to feature expert guest Holly Bamford, and it is part of Podcasthon 2025 Ending Witch Hunt series.
Because part of the witch hunt story is historical witch hunts. And Holly is a history PhD candidate at Liverpool University, and she researches on late medieval and early modern witchcraft and superstition. And we met her last year at the Magic and Witchcraft Conference in York, England.
If you are like us at all and you love stories from history, you're going to absolutely be tickled by tomorrow's episode. We've got great stories of witchcraft cases in England. So be ready to learn about the 1674 Hinchcliffe case, which saw Susan and Joseph Hinchcliffe and their daughter Anne Shillitoe accused of witchcraft. Notably, neighbors petitioned the courts defending the family's innocence, a documented instance of community support for the accused.
But there's more. You will also hear the story of the 1601 Trevisard case. 12 neighbors approached the magistrate directly to accuse an entire family of witchcraft. This case features a remarkably distinctive magistrate's signature. And we have a picture from Holly of that document.
Ooh, I want to see that. Like Sarah said, we met Holly at a conference. And in fact, we've met many of our podcast guests at conferences that we've attended. And your support for our attendance at these conferences helps us meet even more guests, network with previous guests. We met last year several people in person who we had talked to previously on the show. And we also, at the conferences, we do learn an immense amount in every presentation, every talk that's given. We learn a ton about witch trials and about contemporary witch hunts.
And that gives us a lot of data and insight. So when we have new episodes and guests coming on, they're talking about their experience and research. We find parallels, and it just enables us to take these deep dives into the history. So when you're done listening to one of our episodes, you have a lot of new information and you're excited to get some more questions answered about witch hunts. So those conferences are just really great fuel for continuing to grow this space around the discussion of witch hunts. In 2024, we were able to present our research on modern witch hunts, and it sparked important conversations about those historical patterns and the present day persecution.
And this year, 2025, we hope to go back to the Magic and Witchcraft Conference in York. This year it's in June, and we need your help to get there. The theme this year is What is a Witch? A very big, important central theme to both understanding historic witch trials and the modern day situation. So we plan to go and present on what a witch is in the context of modern witch hunts. So to attend conferences in the 2025 conference season, we've set up a GoFundMe page, and you can go on there and donate any amount that you are comfortable with so that this will happen.
Thank you for making this nonprofit work possible with your donations.
And thank you for joining us for Podcasthon.
Don't forget, tomorrow you will hear from Holly Bamford on some historical family witchcraft cases in England.
Have a great today and a beautiful tomorrow.